Good morning to everybody. Happy Friday to you, the day before Valentine's Day. What better way to get your weekend of love started than we're hanging with your unk here on this Friday? Got some things to talk about. Not going to be here for a long time, but enough time in order for me to give you a little Cam Coleman, little juicy little nugget about Cam Coleman. I'm going to give you a little Arch Manning nugget. So hit the like button. Is it a button? I don't even know. Hit the that little like icon. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Over 200,000 strong, and we're going, and we won't stop, can't stop. I don't know if I can make Diddy references though anymore. Anyway, how's everyone doing? Hope everyone's enjoying your weekend of love. Man, so we're gonna start the show a little bit talking about our guy Killer Cam Coleman, and how things are going with him as he gets here on the 40 acres. Obviously, Cam is one of the guys. And good morning to you, Darian. Good morning to you, my main man, Mike Torres, the recruiting guru that you are. Mike heading next week down in Bradenton, IMG Showcase with Max. So wanted to let you know about that. So I'll be on the road next week. Nobody try to jack me though. I got ADT. Not ADD, ADT. But yeah, Mike, I'll be going down there. I'll give you some updates on that. Cam Coleman though, as you guys know, there was a good number of guys who Texas acquired here in the last transfer portal. And good morning to my main man T. Good to see you, T. Hope you've been doing well. And again, I always talked about when you looked at the transfer portal, you looked at the guys who transferred out, the guys who transferred in. I always said, like, hey, look, it's all about looking at it like trades, right? I was talking to someone about this morning and talking about Texas and how they did it in the transfer portal. And I was like, you just got to look at it as a trade. Like, if you traded one for another, do you feel like Texas won, right? And so when you look at, like, Trey Owens versus MJ Morris. Well, MJ Morris actually has more playing time, so that's probably a win for Texas, right? You look at the running backs and you trade those running backs for Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers, like, that's a win, right? You take all these wide receivers and you trade it for Cam Coleman, right? That's a win. The offensive line probably might be a push at this moment. You would have to determine that. Linebackers, that's a win for Texas. DBs, when you get someone who is like Bo Masco, who is an all-conference player, that's a win, and kicker, all that kind of stuff, right? So in any case, as relates to Cam being one of the kind of premier guys that we talked about so much in January, and kind of probably the crowning jewel of the transfer portal of what Steve Sarkisian was able to pull off, what Brandon Harris was able to pull off. He's a guy that we're going to keep an eye on. He's a guy that we're going to monitor, and a guy that we're going to continually talk about for all the right reasons, right? Just because he is that dude. I did a show right now recently when I talked about Cam being him and all these kind of things. Well, one of the things I was talking to people behind the scenes, kind of just getting an update on him, and come to find out that so far that look, and we're only in winter workouts, right? So look, I get it. It's easy to win the off season. It's easy to win the off season. So I get it, right? It's February 13th, and February 13th has nothing to do with September 13th, October 13th, and so on and so forth, right? But the thing that I keep hearing about him when I talk to multiple people is that so far he's having a really smooth transition. And all these guys are doing extremely well, by the way. All these guys are transitioning well. I keep hearing good things about, all the transfer portal guys. Again, it's early, right? So we haven't hit spring ball. When you hit spring ball, we'll know a little bit more, right? That's kind of where the rubber meets the road a little bit. Training camp for sure. But, training camp, for the most part, by the time you get to training camp, there's only a couple position battles to be had at that point. Training camp is really, the first 2 weeks might be the settling the position battles. The last 2 weeks of training camp, that's really getting ready for the season opener. So training camp, by the time you get there, everything's kind of set, right? Nobody's really going to go from fourth string to first string in August, right? You can only go up maybe one notch, barring an injury, right? Which, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, right? But not only is everyone doing well, but I hear Cam is doing extremely well within his transition. The thing that I keep hearing about him is that the staff absolutely loves his work ethic on and off the field, which is really important for a guy that as he gets here and tries to get acclimated to everything, we know he's an on-field talent. The thing that has been really impressive from the Cam standpoint is how much he has been really throwing himself into the Longhorn playbook. Like he's been really immersing himself and really just saying to himself, I've got to learn this. I'm trying to learn this. So that's him working with Sark. That's him working with Chris Jackson, his receivers coach. That's him working with Ryan Wingo. Like I just keep hearing great things about his work ethic, him being a student of the game, and just his desire to just fully know this playbook in and out so he can have an impact this season. You say, well, shouldn't that be the thing for everybody? Yeah, it should be. Now, how many times people on your job that you work with that they're cool with the check and that's it, right? And it's easy when you're getting paid seven figures to be complacent. It's easy to just kind of go with the flow. And Cam's kind of not being that kind of person, I think is really encouraging part of the conversation. Again, you're like, all right, it's not the newsiest of things, right? This is not saying that Cam Coleman is going to be, a 2,000-yard receiver or anything to that effect. But it is interesting when we've had the conversation. And I think when I did one of the shows, Ketch talked about how basically he felt like Cam Coleman might be the most athletic or one of the best receivers since Roy Williams, which really started like a Roy Williams, Jordan Shipley debate, right? And listen, I understand that when I do these shows, you guys listen every day, but I understand that not everyone listens every day. So if this sounds a little repetitive, please forgive me. But he gave that comparison about Cam and Roy, which was like, okay, that's heavy. That's a lot. That's a hellified comparison. But yet that's what becomes what the expectations of him is going to be this season, right? That's how special he's expected to be. And, can he be that next 1,000-yard receiver? I have this graphic stored here that I'm going to keep. And this is my wide receiver graphic. Who said, "What's up, nerds"? Wait, who said that? Who said that? S Road. What? Y'all, I do not consider y'all nerds. Y'all are cool ass people to me. I don't see any. I mean, y'all might be a little nerdy, but nobody's like a super nerd. I know you're just joking, that's wrong, by the way, and I'm just messing with you, but I don't know. I think there's some cool. Like I think Sandman's like pretty suave to me. Like I'm like, okay. Shoot. All right, Sandman. I can see why Tex Blonde is trying to get with you on Valentine's Day weekend. Don't cuss me out, Tex Blonde. Stay at your job. All right. So where the hell did speaking of people, where there's another one. There's a person that has been missing, but I'll get to her in a second. This was Texas's Texas receivers over the past few years, and then we had this conversation previously as to like, well, where does Texas, where will Cam Coleman finish, right? Rodolfo. Rodolfo. I love Rodolfo. And we went through what the receivers here, right? So if I start with Charlie Strong at the bottom, we look at Charlie and I started honestly, y'all. I started this whole list from when I started working here, because I just feel like it's disingenuous for me to talk about guys from 2009 to 2007. Like I wasn't here. I got here in 2014. And so that's where, Texas starts for me, right? So John Harris ends up with the most random 1,000-yard season that there ever has been, right? Just the most random 1,000-yard season. Like John Harris will be able to tell his kids, I was a 1,000-yard receiver at Texas. Now, most of us, if we saw John Harris walking down the street, we might not recognize him. But nonetheless, John Harris, 1,000-yard receiver. Then we had the John Burt, which is crazy. It's crazy. That was the top receiver that year, y'all. Top receiver that year at 457 yards in 12 games. What math does that even add up to? I don't even know what that adds up to. Someone do the math for me. What is that, like 30 yards a game or something? No, that would be like, what, 40 yards a game, somewhere around there, 35, 40 yards a game, 12 times 4. Somebody do the math. Someone who's smarter than me, tell me how much that is. Might be like 200 yards. 20 yards a game. Yeah, I don't know. Someone do the math, because 20 would be like 240. So double that, be like 40. Someone do the math. All right, Amonte Foreman at 420. We got worse. Oh my God, it got worse. All right, then we move it to Tom Herman. Things got a little bit better. Yeah, Esferon, you ain't told no lies, boy. That's depressing. That is depressing. Not trying to take shots at Armani Foreman or John Burt, and I think John Burt still works at UT, but damn. All right, so then we get Colin Johnson, who comes in. He was a leading receiver in 2017. I think that might have been his freshman year, if I'm correct. I can't remember all the details on that. We had Little Jordan Humphrey. You said what? You said you trip on John Harris was like that out of Garland, Texas. All right, my bad. But listen, Rude Wayne, Texas. You got to remember, like that was John Harris's like really only standout year. It was just keeping it a buck. But I feel you. Rep your Garland, Texas. I don't want to offend nobody in Garland, Texas. I don't want no problems. I don't need that smoke. All right. We get Little Jordan Humphrey, who has that 1,000-yard season. I believe he's still in the NFL. Devin Duvernay comes with that breakout season that we all know about, and he's still doing his thing in the NFL. Joshua Moore in 2020, we take a little stop, Rodolfo. You're such an ass. And then we have Joshua Moore, who comes there in Strong's last season. That was in 10 games, but still not a good thing. And then, of course, Sark comes in, and all of a sudden, things start to improve. You get Xavier Worthy being that guy for, basically 3 seasons, finally getting over 1,000 yards. You had Matthew Golden pretty damn close in 2024. Damn close. You would have loved to give him 13 more yards, but, he did get drafted in the first round. So ain't nobody mad at him. Then you had Ryan Wingo last season, who really came on probably more so in the second half of the year. Of course, probably no coincidence. That's when Arch Manning started to come on as well. And so you had Ryan Wingo. So the question really becomes, all right, where does Cam kind of fall in line? And we've kind of had the conversations as to what do we believe. What up, DC? What do we believe that numbers is him going to look like? And I've kind of shown you guys like the usage rate usually for Sark's guys. And when you look at Sark's guys, and when you look at like the usage rate, typically he has a guy that he leans on and then he leans into. And that number one guy is usually that number one guy. It's not all, because I use this graphic to kind of to show you that kind of the running back graphic. And we'll get back to Cam in a second, but I've used this kind of as this running back graphic the other day. And you can just see when Sark has a guy, you can see, just look at the numbers. He leans into him, whether it was Trey Wisner over the past couple of years, whether it was Jonathan Brooks. And Jonathan Brooks had the injury, so that kind of cut it short when we looked at Bijan. And this is when I did the Derek Cooper video earlier this week. So if you haven't checked it out, it's here on the channel. You look at the Najee Harris years where he really, really leaned in. And then, of course, you go into, I'm skipping to like Washington when you get into the Bishop Sankey stuff, which was fantastic. Chris Polk as well. I'm just saying, like, using that as an example. He does that with his receivers. He does that with his running backs. I know there's a ton of talent that's here on the team, but we got to understand that he's probably going to lean into who his guys are, and one of those guys is Cam Coleman. And so, what the encouraging part of it should be for everyone is that as he starts to lean into it, and we know he's going to lean into him, that Cam is really grasping, embracing, and really trying to be that dude here. So he's got the check, but the check the check is not the finish line for him. It's just kind of the starting point for him. So good news on that front. I also realized before the show, as I was kind of I didn't have kids. I didn't. Good morning, Stephanie. I didn't have kids. I saw you the other day, Stephanie. That yeah, Stephanie, the house next to me is finally. This is how you know your life has changed. When your neighbors walk past you, you're like, the house for sale. It's pending finally, right? So Stephanie, the house next to me is pending. That's that's how you know your life has changed, where you're on next door or your house is pending and you're like, well, I want to see what they sell that house for to see how that's going to affect my resale value. Like, I am in such a suburban life that I would have never imagined when I was living in the inner city. I just would have never imagined this life. But here I am. My neighbors walk by, like, I see the house is pending. I'm like, it is pending. I met those potential buyers. They're from Oregon. Anyway, beforehand, oh shoot, Tracy came in for super chat. Hold on, Tracy. Tracy. All right, let me get your super chat in. What's more likely to happen in 2026? 1,000-yard rusher or 1,000-yard receiver, or will both happen? Both, Tracy. I am right now on the Hollywood Smothers / Ryan Wingo 1,000-yard train. That's why I'm on, Tracy. I'm 100% down with that. I think Smothers, you just go back. I just keep watching a lot of things about Smothers. And the more I watch him, I'm like, wow, this dude is going to be really special in Sark's system. And I'm totally sold. Again, guys stay healthy. I'm totally sold on the Cam Coleman thing as well. I just think that I'm going to say this respectfully. And every time I say no disrespect, I always feel like I say something disrespectful to a guy. But I think Texas, while they appreciate Ryan Wingo and everything that he is, they brought in Cam Coleman for a reason. And they brought him in to be that dude. Now, clearly Wingo and Cam will make each other better. Not saying that. But they brought in Cam Coleman. They brought him for a reason. They brought him to be that guy. So you give me I think it's 1,000 on both. I really believe that this offense is going to be special. I believe that, and Esron says he's thinking Raleek. That's possible. But right now, for me, I think Raleek is a hell of an option. So we're clear. And I think you can win with either one of them. But Raleek is a guy for me that everything I've talked about as relates to him, and people I've talked to, they say he's probably more of a 15 touches a game kind of guy. And that's including carries. That's including, receptions. That's what I've been told, right? So if that's what he more than likely is, all right, I didn't want to burp in front of y'all. Excuse me. If he is more, that's what makes me think Smothers. Now, look, we may get there, and Raleek may be that guy, and whoever it is will be 1,000-yard rusher. That I believe. Even with the schedule, I do believe that. Oh, Texas Blonde too. That I do believe. But okay, so anyway, thank you for the super chat. My man drops some fives on it. He always got five. That's why I'm going to start saying for you, T. You always put five on it, don't you? T, my man T always puts five on it. And you got to be old school to know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so I saw this before the show, and I realized sometimes some of the weaknesses of doing like a daily show is that you just always assume that everybody watches your show every day, or they keep up with stuff every day, and so because you assume it, you just talk like it's like you just talk like today, and I forget that somebody may have missed something for 2 weeks ago. It's like, so for real. Like my man asked me, he said, "Is it true that Arch has a foot on in his brace?" And I was like, "Oh snap!" That to me was like so old news. But then I realized, like, damn, I may have known this. You guys may have known this, but so I just wanted to start the Arch conversation with this. So if you guys don't know, or if you didn't miss it, he did have foot surgery. This is by UT, by the way, right? And so when you do see pictures of him on social media, and this is going to tie into exactly what I want to talk about. He did have a little thing done on his foot for an injury, which by the way, if you're telling me or telling us that what we saw against Michigan was Arch with a foot injury, and you're gonna make it better? Okay. That's Arch injured, hurt, not injured, hurt. That's him there. And by the way, okay, Sailor Joe says 1,000 yards from Winga. Interesting. And by the way, just in case you missed it, there was other people who did go through some off-season surgery as well. And there it is, Xavier Filsaime with the surgery, Gooseby, which I reported several weeks ago, with the shoulder, Emmett Mosley, Ty Anthony, Ryan Wingo. I see, man, by the way, I love the chat right now. I love how y'all fired up. 100% love how y'all fired up. I love the people who was talking about Wingo. I love when they say I'm sleeping on relief. Hey, listen, if I'm sleeping, cool, wake me up. I'm here for it. I think either one of those guys is going to be 1,000-yard guy. Just so we're clear, right? Anyway, so here's the thing about Arch. I hear everything with him is going really good. His recovery is going really well. And here's the thing with Cam. Oh shit! One more thing. I forgot. The other thing with Cam. I forgot this. I want to tell you this. The other thing with Cam is that the biggest thing I've been told is that, hey, he's just got to get the playbook down. And as soon as he is immersed in that, they feel like the sky's 100% limit to him. And I said he's trying to learn it. I don't know. It's a side note, and I know it sounds obvious, but I just kind of wanted to make sure I shared that portion of it. The thing I've heard about Arch is that the hardest thing that everyone's having right now with him is telling this dude just to relax. It's the craziest thing, but it's also really encouraging that Arch is so much wanting to get back onto the field that the biggest struggle is telling him to chill. This is the biggest struggle that anyone inside the building is having right now, is telling him, this guy, to chill out. He don't want to chill out. He doesn't want to chill. He doesn't know how to chill. His whole life, you got to think, it's been playing multiple sports all the time. And so they're working with him to say, hey, Arch, relax. The Arch is not about that life. Now, clearly he'll be back for the spring. I think Sark will be smart with him. Sark's always really good about preventing further injuries. Like he's always really, really. I give him a lot of credit on that. Now, sometimes, now you get into the season, hey, Sark gonna throw your ass out there now. But in the off season, Sark gonna be cool. But you get into the season, Sark like, look. I mean, is the foot still attached? If the foot's still attached, he should get out there. Don't get mad at me, Sark. There's plenty of reasons for you to get mad at me, and I'm sure I'll give them to you in the future. Don't get mad at me on that one. Because I know y'all watch the show, y'all relay this shit back to these people. It is kind of funny. All right. I wanted to tell you guys one more thing. This is one more just kind of insider thing. Just dropping insider stuff on a Friday. This is hilarious. Okay. So I found out, you know how when it comes to the transfer portal, it always know, like the things I tell you here, usually you hear like months from now. So know that the things I say here, usually I'm patting myself on the back. I'm sometimes ahead of the curve. And this one, no one's talked about, but you're going to hear about it. So, you know how in the transfer portal, you're not supposed. If you are not in the portal, you're not supposed to talk to coaches, right? But everyone always talks about tampering, right? The tampering's happening, and tampering, how you prevent tampering, and all this kind of stuff. But we know it happens, right? Apparently, in the last transfer portal cycle, people have gotten really smart on how they can talk to coaches. So check this out. So apparently, players from different programs, and I didn't hear this is from a UT perspective, but I did hear this because I talked to coaches at other programs. What players were doing is that they were applying for academic entrance into a school. Let's say I apply to Texas State. Just use them as an example. Not that I heard this. I'm just using them as an example because they're down the road and I just saw Text Blonde pop up on the screen. So it just made me think of Texas State, right? So then I apply for Texas State, for example. I get accepted as a student into that school. Well, then as a student of the school who have been accepted, then I use that as the opportunity to do what? Talk to the coaches. And I now apply to 3 or 4 different schools. I get accepted into the school, and then I am a student of said school. And so now I can go ahead and start talking to people. And they were applying to 3 and 4 different schools. So they were literally trying to circumvent the little system that was there. There's so many little hustles going on, y'all. There's so many little hustles. It's not just the agents. It's not just quote unquote tamper. It's how do we figure out how to navigate this? I heard it. I laughed. People are funny. Anyway, I wanted to drop all those gems on you on this weekend. What do y'all got planned? Y'all doing Valentine's Day this weekend? Or y'all just chilling? What are y'all gonna do? I haven't decided what I'm gonna do. I might chill. But whatever you do, go out and have a good time. Go out, have a fantastic weekend. Like I said, HEB got all kinds of stuff in there. Go buy yourself a little something. Don't be depressed if you ain't got no Valentine. It's okay. It's just a weekend. It's just a day. Go out there and do something special for yourself. You know what I always say? Live each day like it's your last, because one day it will be. So go out and do something nice for yourself. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy fun. And if anybody loves you, know your aunt loves you. Ain't gonna send you no flowers or no money, but know I love you. And I will be back here, Lord willing, on Monday. So you guys go out, have a fantastic weekend. My kids ain't here this weekend. I ain't got to go to a game or nothing. So I'm going to enjoy myself. So I might stay solo dolo. All right, y'all. T, I appreciate you putting 5 on it. Thank you for everything. Make sure there's no more super chats and hit that like button.